Raider Nation, what's going on? I'm Mitchell Renz. I'm going to be bringing you guys all the latest Raiders news and updates. First one on the board, though, is Colin Kaepernick going to be the next Raiders quarterback? I'm giving that one Chucky head. That's a bunch of Jamarcus. This guy didn't even play in 2017. Sure, John Gruden is a quarterback whisperer, but, I mean, the owner, Mark Davis, he does not seem to be very interested in Kaepernick. Can you blame him? This guy has yet to prove to me over the last few years that he's a reliable quarterback. So, for that one, I'm giving it one Chucky head. Don't believe it. Guys, I'm going to be bringing you all the latest rumors and news, but I want you guys to understand what my rumor meter is. If I'm giving something 0 Chuckies, that's a tuck rule. Tuck that. Don't believe it. It's probably not going to happen. One Chucky head is a bunch of Jamarcus. Probably more than likely not going to happen, that rumor. 2 Chuckies, Seabass. We're still fishing for the truth a little bit. There's a chance. However, we're about 50-50. 3 Chuckies entering the black hole. All right, guys, 75% chance. We're getting close. This could actually happen. 4 Chucky heads. Believe it, baby. It's going to be a fact. The rumor's true. All right, let's roll into the next rumor I got on the board for you guys. The Raiders are going to draft Georgia linebacker Roquan Smith. So Mel Kiper Jr. in his first mock draft had the Raiders selecting Smith at the 10th overall pick, but I don't really know. I think Smith is a very, very talented linebacker, probably the best linebacker in this draft, but if he can get to the Raiders at number 10, I think they end up pulling the trigger. But the reason why this is 2 Chucky heads is because I don't know if he's going to get to 10. Heck, every single year predicting the NFL draft, guys, it's not that easy. We try to do it every season, but imagine the pairing of Roquan Smith with Khalil Mack. LB Bowman is a free agent. I'm just saying, there's a chance. Next rumor I got for you guys is number 3. Is former head coach of the Raiders, Jack Del Rio, is he going to the New York Giants? So the dominoes I think you need to look in this one, for example, are the Giants just hired Pat Shurmur. It's been rumored that if Pat Shurmur was hired, Jack Del Rio is going to end up going to the Raiders. So, with that being in fact, now that Pat Shurmur is the head coach, I'm giving this one 3 Chucky heads. We're starting to enter the black hole, or at least maybe Jack Del Rio is now out of the black hole and heading to New York, which probably is a heck of a black hole. But the Raiders are going to pay this guy $6 million over the next 3 years because of his contract. But Del Rio, with his time with the Raiders, 25-22, not the greatest, especially 6-10 this past season. Rumor number 4 for you guys. Le'Veon Bell. Is Le'Veon Bell going to be a Raider? I read this morning and I was mind blown by this, but I'm only going to give it one Chucky head. Why is that? Because Le'Veon Bell in this one, for example, this is a bunch of Jamarcus. This guy in 2017 was an absolute stud for the Steelers. 312 carries, 1,291 rushing yards, and then you look at just the receiving on that aspect. He had over 400 touches, which has only been done, I believe, once over the last 5 years. But Le'Veon Bell did threaten to retire if the Steelers weren't going to meet his men's, I guess, and what he believes he deserves for money. It was reported if he ends up not going back to the Steelers, look for the Raiders to sweep in and be able to steal him away. Imagine Le'Veon Bell in that black and silver. Whew, that'd be pretty. Rumor number 5 I got for you guys. Derek Carr to the 2018 Pro Bowl. 2018 Pro Bowl. I'm giving that one 4 Chucky heads. Believe it, baby. Tom Brady's on his way to the Super Bowl, which, yeah, unfortunately, that just seems to happen all the time. But Derek Carr now is going to fill in for Tom Brady and the Patriots in the Super Bowl. Sure, he had a bit of a down year, only 22 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, and then you see that completion percentage there. But this is Carr's 3rd straight Pro Bowl. A young guy at age 26, I mean, that's pretty good. But, again, he's filling in for Tom Brady. Hopefully, maybe next season, Derek Carr's in the Super Bowl. Brady's filling in for him. Guys, rumor number 6 I got flowing in for you. Jack Del Rio strongly considered bringing back Todd Downing. This one's a little bit interesting. I'm going to give this one 3 Chucky heads. So, the reason why I say it's 3 Chucky heads, sure, he came out and he said, yeah, I was strongly considering bringing back Todd Downing. However, if you look at the numbers the Raiders had this past season, it was not very promising. I mean, you just look at the numbers overall. I mean, we're talking about they finished in 2016, they averaged 26 points per game. That was 7th in the NFL. This past season, 18.8 points per game, 23rd in the NFL. I think you as a coach, Jack Del Rio, need to look at your offensive coordinator and say, man, I have all these pieces. I have Derek Carr. I have Amari Cooper, Marshawn Lynch, Michael Crabtree. Why am I not putting up points? If you look at that every single week and say, I'm still going to bring back this guy, for me, I don't believe it. But it's 3 Chucky heads because he did come out and say that he was heavily considering it. Rumor number 7 I got for you guys is Derek Carr wants John Gruden to be hard on him. That's what he said. No, really, that's what he said. Like, I'm not kidding you. That's 4 Chucky heads in my opinion. I mean, believe it, baby. That's 100% what Derek Carr said. I mean, I love this picture here. I mean, that's not too long ago. He's sitting in Gruden's quarterback camp, and they're going over tape. They're analyzing stuff. And sure, John Gruden's probably said man probably 10 times in that video. But, man, I love watching John Gruden break stuff down with Derek Carr. The interesting thing, though, here with Carr is he came out and said that he believes his best years in college and in the NFL were with difficult coaches. John Gruden's going to give it to him straight, and that's why he's been so successful throughout his career. But Rich Gannon, the former quarterback who played underneath John Gruden, has already come out and said that he thinks Carr lacks confidence in leadership. Sure, the kid's only 26 years old, but when you pay a guy the amount of money that the Raiders just paid Derek Carr, he needs to have the confidence. He needs to have the leadership. So for that reason, I think he does want John Gruden to be hard on him. That's 4 Chucky heads. Believe it, baby. Rumor number 8. John Gruden realized he wanted to coach Week 15 during the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Ring of Honor ceremony. I'm going to give this one 2 Chucky heads because I think Seabass is still kind of reeling in the truth on this one. For me, sure, being around players, me personally, I used to play college sports. When you're around your old friends, when you're around old teammates, you kind of want to get back into it. I wouldn't mind lacing up the cleats, and heck, I'm sure John Gruden wouldn't mind throwing on a helmet and going out and hitting somebody. I mean, that guy he is one crazy dude. But I'm also going to say the reason why this is only 2 Chucky heads is because when the Raiders offered him $10 million, or 10 years, $100 million contract, I'm going to say that I also probably persuade him to wanting to come back and coach. So for that reason, 2 Chucky heads for John Gruden, reason why he wanted to come back for the return. Last rumor I got for you guys, Paul Guenther. Hopeful to get LB Bowman back on that defense. So this one I'm giving it 4 Chucky heads. And it's because, again, this is another one where he came out and he said, I really hope I can get LB Bowman back. And can you blame him? I mean, this guy was pretty solid for the Raiders last season. I mean, sure, he played in 10 games, but 89 tackles, an interception, 1.5 sacks, but he also brings a physical toughness, and he brings leadership to a defense that desperately needs it. And I mean, he's going to help groom guys like Khalil Mack, and then if they go out and maybe get a guy like Roquan Smith in the first round, look for Bowman to really mold these young players and form a defense. And John Gruden loves these tough guys, and Bowman is going to bring that toughness, he's going to bring the intelligence, and he ultimately is just going to really, really help a defense. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. This is the Raiders Report. I'm Mitchell Renz. Please follow me on Twitter, as you can see below, at MitchellRenz365. Don't be afraid to give me a follow on Facebook and Instagram as well, at MitchellRenz365. And please follow Raider Nation, Raiders by Chat Sports on Facebook. But, guys, now we're going to lean into some possible players the Raiders could cut. So the Raiders right now, in terms of cap space, have, I believe, the 20th most or 20th highest amount of cap space in terms of the NFL. They're looking at about $24 million entering 2018. So this is the new year. For me personally, my New Year's goal, get my six-pack back. I'll be honest. Raiders, they want to get back to the playoffs. They need to shed some of that fat, and this is the way they're going to do it, by cutting possibly these 8 players. First guy I got up for you is Clive Walford, tight end. So when you look at Clive Walford, I mean, this is a guy who I personally don't think they really need. Jared Cook this past season was pretty amazing. I mean, Jared Cook this past season had 54 catches. That was second most for the Raiders. Then he also led the team in receptions or yards with 688. Now you look at Clive Walford. 9 catches, 80 yards, and then that cap hit, $1.02 million. Sure, they're going to save $822K, but realistically, why do you need Walford when you have a guy who can catch the ball like Jared Cook? Second guy on our list is an offensive tackle. His name is Marshall Newhouse. The Raiders this past season coming into the year, I was guilty of it. I thought they had the best offensive line in all of football. Unfortunately, that didn't really pay through. I mean, Derek Carr definitely showed his struggles once in a while when he had a lot of pressure in his face, but Marshall Newhouse is a guy who I think that they can get rid of. I mean, they would save $1.75 million by cutting him. Absolutely no dead cap hit whatsoever. And then you look at Vadell Alexander. I think he's a better option, and he's cheaper. For me, yeah, I'm cheap, and if I can get something that's cheap and better, sign me up for that all day. The third guy the Raiders I think you consider cutting is wide receiver Seth Roberts. So Seth Roberts joins the rest of the Raiders this season, and for some reason, they just couldn't catch the ball. I don't know what was going on in Oakland, but things were slipping through their fingers. You look at his season stats, 43 catches, 455 yards, 1 touchdown. He has the cap hit of $4.45 million. However, if they end up cutting him, that would save them $2.45 million. Again, this is a Raiders team who struggled catching the ball this year, and they need to be able to help out Derek Carr, a guy who they just paid a whole bunch of money. And John Gruden, again, as I said before, is a quarterback whisperer. He needs to be able to have reliable receivers. Seth Roberts, 26 years old, really hasn't been able to blossom into the receiver that he might have been hoped to come when he was coming out. But again, a mediocre receiver who's never had over 500 yards in his 3-year career. I'm saying it's time for you to go, man. Sorry. Next guy I got up, who is a potential cut, Cordell Patterson, wide receiver slash gadget player slash I don't really know what position he plays. He has been pretty solid in the kick return game. He averaged 28 yards per kick return this past season, but also as a wide receiver, 31 catches, 309 yards, and a touchdown. That's not getting it done. And then this was a guy who, when he first came out of Tennessee, he had a lot of high hopes. I know the Vikings had high hopes for him, but when you can cut a guy who, in my opinion, is just a gadget player who's really not all that special on offense, sure, he gives you that special teams, but paying a guy just to play special teams $3.25 million, unless he's Devin Hester, I just don't think it's justifiable. For that reason, I'm snipping you. You're going to probably get cut there, my man. 5th guy on our list of potential cuts, and I hope he doesn't hear this because he's probably going to come after me, is beast mode. Marshawn Lynch, running back. Now, unfortunately, we can't pay him in Skittles. We actually have to pay him in money. So he's due to make $5.95 million next year. And yeah, there's no dead cap hit, guys, if he gets cut. So that would save the Oakland Raiders, us, $5.95 million. Ultimately, though, I mean, when you look at the numbers, his age, I think it's time to possibly move on. 207 carries, 891 yards, 7 touchdowns is productive. I mean, averaging 4.3 yards per carry is more than I think a lot of people expected, especially when you consider just how much of a down year I think this Oakland Raiders offense had in general. He stayed healthy, but again, this is a guy who's now at the 10,000 career yard mark. I mean, when we start seeing those kind of numbers, that's scary. Maybe it's a time to move on. I mean, this was a guy who just retired. He came out of retirement, sure to play back in Oakland, and he's in Oakland, but when you're looking at that kind of money for that age of a running back, guys, I think it's time to move on. But now I have a bit of a reaction poll for you. Should the Raiders cut Marshawn Lynch? If you think they should, give me a heart. That means yes. If you don't think they should, throw your thumb up there, like it, and then we can figure out at the end if Marshawn Lynch should be cut or not. All right, guys, next one I got for you for potential cuts is cornerback David Amerson. So for me, I think Amerson played actually pretty well this past season. I mean, ultimately, this is one of those that I just think is in terms of the money. Money-wise, it makes sense for them to cut him. I mean, they would save $6 million, and again, this is a defense that needs to build. They need cornerbacks. They have young and up-and-coming cornerbacks, but when you can save this amount of money, I think it's interesting. Sure, he battled some injuries this past year, but I think from a talent standpoint, he still has a high ceiling, and I think for that reason, I would be surprised if the Raiders cut him, but when you look at the money, there is a chance, which is why he makes the list. Number 7 is a wide receiver, Michael Crabtree. For real, guys, Michael Crabtree. This was a guy over his career, I would say, has been very highly hoped, but has never really truly come out as what we've hoped for him coming out of Texas Tech. But for the Oakland Raiders this past season, I mean, 58 catches, 618 yards, and 8 touchdowns. That's not worth, in my opinion, the $7.69 million that he's going to get. And if we want to cut him, there's no dead cap hit. I mean, we can keep that money. However, I think he has great chemistry with Derek Carr, and Derek Carr is still a young guy, like I said before, at 26 years old, who could use Michael Crabtree as his red zone target because, for some reason, Amari Cooper, I have been the biggest Amari Cooper truther. Man, I'm really hoping this guy puts it together, but Michael Crabtree led the team in receiving yards, or with receptions with 58, so $7.69 million, can you justify it? I don't really know. Next guy on our list for being cut, cornerback Sean Smith. For this, it's not a matter of when, or it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, because he has not played well. He hasn't lived up to the expectations. I mean, 34 tackles, 4 pass breakups, and 2 interceptions. Plus, you look at the injuries and then the $8.5 million. If we cut him, we can save $8.5 million. And then the up-and-coming cornerbacks that we have, I mean, we're talking about guys like Gary and Conley. He should be healthy this season. He should be able to take over for Smith. So if he can insert for Smith, we have a better option there, a cheaper option. I think the Raiders are going to do that. For that, Sean Smith is a very likely cut. All right, guys, which player do you think the Raiders should cut the most? Like, out of all those guys I just mentioned, or out of the 4 guys up here, which one do you think should be cut? Sean Smith, Michael Crabtree, David Amerson, or Marshawn Lynch? Guys, thank you so much for tuning into the show. Again, my name is Mitchell Renz. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Mitchell Renz365. If you guys like the Raiders Report, don't be afraid to like Raiders by Chat Sports as well on Facebook. And again, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, go Raider Nation.